So against this background of progress, even if qualified progress, comes the crisis. And here you can see, of course, we don't have yet the final data for 2009. This is still a projection, but we've seen already the first 3 quarters coming in. And yes, this is the contraction for 2009. And also, what is possibly less heartening is we got kind of used to think about this, but the recovery that is coming is likely to be very weak. And this is, I mean, as we know, Bosnia depends a lot from other countries in Europe, with which it has close trade linkages, from which it receives remittances, and there the recovery is being rather weak when compared to other parts of the world. So, in a way, for poverty, what really matters is the impact on households. And in the report, we analyze in details, we discuss in details different channels through which households are hurt. And so one of them is remittances. The fall in remittances overall is not projected to be very major, especially compared to other countries in Eastern Europe and Central Asia that had massive shocks coming from remittances. But it seems that in Bosnia, remittances are quite concentrated in certain groups of people. So those who are going to be hurt are going to be hurt a lot. It's very hard for us to simulate exactly who those people would be and how much are going to be affected. But this is an important thing to keep in mind. The other thing is, of course, is unemployment. As I mentioned, there have been progress up to 2008, and now we're starting to see the numbers climbing up again. The other thing is, the third factor is household indebtedness. Of course, we actually found that as many as 40% of the households are spending at least 20% of their incomes in repaying their debt, and this was in the 2007 data. So now imagine these are people who are very likely to have to pay higher interest rates, and they're vulnerable from the point of view of the currency in which their debt is denominated. So this is an important concern as well. And finally, as you can see, the credit growth, which it started very energetically, even if from a low base, has actually gone down, both for households and for firms. And especially the fact that it's going down for firms suggests that it might be hard for them to invest and create the jobs that would be needed to have to spread the benefits of growth. As Marco said, we don't have yet the results. We don't have yet results of a new survey. We don't know really what is the impact on poverty, but so we've done some simulations, and the report details several of them, but was probably the best guess in a way. It's just to look at what would be the impact of a 4% income shock on poverty, and we find that it would increase poverty by 2 percentage points. Now, 2 percentage points seems little, but it's half of the progress made between 2004 and 2007. And that was progress at a time of very high and sustained growth. And we have nothing of the kind coming up next. So the impact is likely to be very significant. And overall, it seems in our simulations that it's going to be particularly strong in rural areas. So what to do? Unfortunately, the options are really limited. And this is because, the social assistance system, as was already mentioned before, is not very effective at reducing poverty. Now, you might have problems with the font, because this is a comparison of basically all the countries in the Eastern Europe and Central Asia region. And those are ranked. The bar tells you what is the percentage of those in the lowest 20% of the distribution, which is reached by social protection. And the blue line tells you what share of GDP is spent on the system. And a good way of identifying Bosnia is because it's the biggest peak. It's the one for which the gap between what is spent and, let's say, the ratio between the fiscal effort in the system and the percentage of people covered is the largest. The only one that comes close is Croatia, but they reach many more of the poor. So overall, spending 4% of GDP to reach 30% of those in the bottom quintile is not good enough. Resources could be used much more effectively. How? This slide here gives you a sense about the targeting performance of these programs. And you can see here is the Federation, here is Bosnia and Herzegovina, here is the Republika Srpska. This tells you how much of the overall spending reaches the poorest. And it tells you it's very little. In particular, if you look here, 20%, the bottom 20% of the people is getting less than 20% of the benefit. So it's a regressive distribution, let alone the fact that these are the type of programs that you would like to reach overwhelmingly the poor. So this really shows that there is lots that could be done to improve the effectiveness of the system by improving the targeting. The report presents one particular suggestion on how to do so, and this is what you would have here as Bosnia PMT. PMT stands for proxy means testing, which basically is a way of targeting which does not rely on what people declare as their income, but it relies on proxy indicators, indicators which are correlated with their living standard and which are much easier to monitor, because especially in a system where there is lots of informality, it's not that you can ask people to bring you pay slips to see how much they're really earning. With the analysis that we did, based on the 2007 survey, we find that if the old system was targeted according to this PMT, the targeting performance would increase significantly and would put Bosnia very much, at the center of this distribution. So this is, of course, there are issues of implementation in the system. There are issues of data. With better data, you can actually devise a better indicator. And we really hope that once the new HBS data will come in, which have much more detailed information about incomes, we might be able to devise an even better system. But this already is very encouraging. This points to a way forward. So let me just sum up and leave you with 3 points, which is there had been progress, and there is a way of reducing poverty, and that's mostly through growth and employment creation. But the crisis is really putting these benefits under threat. And this suggests that for the government to become more effective, the reforms of the social protection systems are really needed. One thing which is really important is that in this context, it will be important to continue monitoring the situation, both to see how reforms are implemented and to have a sense of how the poorest groups, the poorest and most vulnerable groups, are being reached. Thank you.